Good morning, Scott here. Hope you're well. So the weekend's over, ready for another week. This week, of course, is NFP week, so we need to be aware of the news and the big news happening. I usually find Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the days which are typically a little bit more unpredictable, but particularly around those news events. So just be aware of that. There's a few inflation figures around as well this week. We've got Aussie news on Tuesday. We've got some Kiwi news on Wednesday. Some Swiss news on Thursday, which I think is inflation or CPI, one of those things, and pound news as well on Thursday. So there's a few events, and of course NFP, the big one on Thursday and Friday. Now, over the weekend, I hope you read through all your trades for last week, the ones you took, and even the ones that you might have missed, and ones maybe you planned for but didn't take for whatever reason. And just review them. Don't get in the habit of what's called resulting, where you look at what trade works and therefore everything that made that trade, do you think everything that was going for that trade, you think made it work? It may not have been a good trade. It may have just happened to work. It's all statistics, right? It's the big numbers. It's having the edge. It's having that 60-40 kind of edge, which makes a difference between making money and losing money. So hopefully you had time to review your trades and therefore get ready for this week. So let's go to the charts. There's a few things to look at today. We'll start with this one here. We'll go to the higher time frames. I'll just turn my video off. Right, so higher time frames, look, Aussie Swiss. Monthly, weekly, daily. The monthly is not telling us much. Weekly has had a big bounce and sort of doji-ish looking candle last week. So maybe that's decelerating and about to continue down. And we look at our daily chart, we can see the doji candle is probably caused by, or was caused by this, the daily chart, where we bounced up to the daily 50, and since then we've been decelerating and reversing to the downside. Nothing really special going on there. I don't think this level is very significant because we haven't been down there for much ever. Go right back to 1980. Now this is all new territory down here. Like a lot of the pairs, we're hitting new territory because of certain currencies having their strength, like the dollar recently. Certain currencies having a weakness, like the yen recently, and yeah, so we're in some uncharted territory for some of them. So Aussie Swiss, we've had this bounce off this level. Is it a strong level? Well, not particularly, but it's rejected it and seems to be reversing. Whereas the lower time frames give us. So we've got the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and the 5 minute. 1 hour is where I focus most of my time. The 4 hour is useful as well, of course. We need to be aware of the 4 hour, but for the amount of time we have in these videos, I try and focus on everything on the 1 hour because that's where most of the information we need is on here. So we've had this uptrend to the daily 50, which is this green line, and bouncing off of there, and we've finally broken the 1 hour 50. Not really convincingly, it's been kind of ignoring it, just bouncing backwards and either side of the 1 hour 50. Now we've broken down below it again this morning in the early hours of the day, the week. Very low volume test there, so we ignore that one. Since it's coming back again for another possible discretionary entry. And maybe we'll get a nice little retest and a break lower. Do you have anything to say otherwise? Looking at the MACD, it seems to be trending lower. Yeah, it's trending lower with the price action. That's all looking good. RSI, nothing on that. So that could be a discretionary, could be the third IBO. And that will now look at the 4 hour. It's IBO A, B, or C. The 4 hour chart has, what does it have? We have, yeah, it's a lower high. and a lower low. Not that clear, but it's definitely a swing lower. So we have a change of direction on the 4 hour, which makes this an IBOA, which means everything is pretty much in our favour. No trend lines to break, which is good. Looking good for an IBOA short. Or if you weren't happy, the fact it's not really convincingly broke this, or it's been messing around with this 1 hour 50 and ignoring it, you can always wait for the CBO when it breaks below the 4 hour 50 and the day 20, which is this red line here. 4 hour 50 is this blue line. Yeah, so that could be one for later on today, Aussie. Could be the next 3-4 hours. Who knows? But let's pulling back, maybe for a nice little trade lower. That's good. Aussie Kiwi, what do we have here? It's the daily. We have, oh, this looks nice. So we've got, it looks like a cleanish. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I went through this last week. I showed you that the fib extension on wave 3, Elliott wave 3, was 1.272. Reached that perfectly, rejected it, pulled back 382 perfectly, rejected it. And now we're doing wave 5. Wave 5 is either the lows, which is exceeded already, or 0.618, typical minimum profit target. So 0.618 fib extension of wave 3. So wave 3 is this big one here. So if we look at this fib extension, starting up here, which is the beginning of wave 3. We're going down to here, which is the end of wave 3. And then we're going back to the beginning of wave 5, which is this one here. So that gives us a potential extension of 0.618, which is down here. So there's plenty of room down there. That could continue lower. We've had a couple of very nice bearish candles. So it's looking like a short. What's the 1 hour giving us? It's looking, well, we've got here a higher low, this low. It's a higher low and now a double bottom, which is not very appealing. The only thing on offer really is the pip snatcher now. Is it a good pip snatcher? Well, I'll do my usual thing and try and disqualify it. It's easy to say pip snatcher is good, but it's more important to say why it's not. So is there a trend line? Yeah, probably put a trend line in there, maybe from here. Here's a nice trend line. Trend line's okay. 1 hour 50 is a long way back, which is not good. Ideally, you want to see it come back to the 1 hour 50, break it. So you need to break the trend line to do that and break the pivot. Wow. It's looking like that. So that doesn't look very nice. Then we'll do the usual MACD. I like to use the MACD. And we've got a big MACD divergence here from this low to this low, equal lows. And the MACD is much higher low. So that's a big divergence, saying that this could well be the end of this run, and most likely it's going to reverse. So the pip snatcher, could it play out? Absolutely it could. Is it worth the risk? For me, no. Just because it's, and also you're trading to this double bottom. So for me, it's a definite no-no. So I'll stick that down into watching. Okay, let's go to the third one, Aussie USD. What do we have here? Monthly, heading short, obviously we've got some bearish action there. Weekly, very bearish, bit of a bounce. And then, so it's like looking like the last one, Aussie Swiss we looked at 2 ago, where we have this low pullback and then some kind of doji-ish on the weekly. And that's because we come back, basically retested the daily 50 and we found a nice little pullback. Is this a level? Not much down here, as we can see, going back in time. We've had a definite rejection, looking like we could have, we'll have a third day short. Let's have a look at we going on the price action here. And of course, with the daily, we could be going for lows. We could be aiming for the lows. Either this is a trend change and we're going to just pull back and then carry on our trend upwards and break the daily 50, which is possible. Looking at the weekly chart, oversold. Could be in for some more pullback. And on the daily, there's a there's a MACD from here to here, but since then it's kind of gone. And this is a lower low on the MACD, so not particularly, no real divergence there on the MACD from the daily. Has been oversold, but come back to the halfway line, so I could easily continue the downtrend. So for the short term, we could be looking at short. On the hourly chart, what do we have? We have this uptrend, trend line there, clearly broken the 1 hour 50. Haven't really pulled back to the 1 hour 50 yet, so this is a good opportunity for a nice IBO. 382 just behind the 1 hour 50. If it comes back and meets 382, you could do an entry order, or you could wait for it to touch the 382 and then enter just on the 1 hour 50 or just afterwards. That'll give you a nice little short trade down to these lows, which would be quite nice. Trading through the 4 hour 50. So to the 1 hour 50 will be less than 1%. So therefore we have to trade through the 4 hour 50 for it to be a viable trade. And that makes it an IBOC. So although everything else is looking good in a definite downtrend, I expect the 4 hours on their favour as well. Yeah, we've had lower highs and lower lows in the 4 hour, which is good. So we're going to pull back to essentially the lines up with the pivot as well, which is nice. Daily pivot is just here, where the 1 hour 50 will be. We can't take it as a pip snatcher because the 4 hour 50 is in the way, 1%. So that won't work. Oh, actually, maybe we could even stop clip a little bit there. So that's that. And into the pivot, then you could get a 1-to-1 buy here. Yeah, just before the 4 hour 50. So you can even get a pip snatch out of that one as well if you wanted to. There you go. So as we're trading away from the daily 50, it could well be you're going with the trend. Effectively, you are trading with the trend. The long-term trend is down. So the pullback down to continue until we know otherwise. So therefore, we can push the profit target a little bit further, where we go for these lows. So you could be looking at we've got that 4%, which could even make that a hyper trade. We have a pip snatcher, but we extend it to at least 4%, make it a hyper trade. Now these lows and use trade management to get out of this whatever we can, 2, 3, maybe even 4% if we're lucky. So that's looking good. We're trading through the day 20, which is red line. As you can see on the daily chart here, you can see the blue line here is the daily 20. We are basically on it now, just above it, and we're going to be trading through that. That's fine because we're trading away from the daily 50, so that shouldn't be a problem. Straight through there. That's looking pretty good. I like that one. Okay, let's go to Swiss yen. So Swiss yen, what do we have? Strong uptrend on the monthly, strong uptrend on the weekly, stalling at this level it seems, and strong uptrend on the daily. This is the yen weakness we've been having for a while, but we seem to be having finally a bit of strength shown by the yen on occasion. And it's kind of stalling here at this level on the daily. MACD divergence, this is clearly a lower high, implying we are going to be breaking lower. And the unfortunate thing is we trade down to the daily 50, trading through it is a bit of a no-no for me. But we can certainly trade down to it. On the hourly chart here, we've got a kind of messy but downtrend. And we've had from here, we've had the CBO. It's a bit messy, isn't it? We come back to the 4 hour, maybe we could call that an ACB. Pull back to the 4 hour and now we're breaking away from it. So if that continues, if we get a nice break below the hourly 50 and a pull back to the hourly 50, maybe about here somewhere, then we could have Yeah, an ACBB, like an IBO, but it's actually an ACB because the 4 hour 50 is behind us, this blue line here. So it's behind us, so that will be whenever the 1 hour 50 catches up. We're probably about here somewhere. You can trade down to the daily 50. That shouldn't be a gold one because it was playing out and now it's pulled back behind the hourly 50. So it really is a blue one. Let's go to euro pound. So we want for later in the day. Again, we've had some bearish action for the last few days. Looking like it might continue. Is this a strong level we're at right now? Nothing really. Yeah, maybe it is. It's low, it's low, this high, this high, this high. Well, that's quite a level there. So look at the hourly chart and see if you're getting any signs of pulling back. So the obvious trade here is a pip snatcher on a trend continuation. And it pulls back to the daily pivot. Daily 50 is quite a long way behind, which is not ideal. So a trend line, what we do, which looks okay. We go back here. No, not quite. That's good, lines up the hourly 50. And as I said, we've got another 6 or 8 plus hours, so that could hang around here and then pull back here somewhere. That could be okay for a pip snatcher. Now let's try and disqualify it. Remembering that we do have a possible strong support line here on the daily chart we just looked at. And what we see here is a big MACD divergence. So we've got a much lower low here. And we've got a, oh, it's not, yeah, it's about the same, maybe a touch lower, but that's definitely a divergence. So that implies we are going to break to the upside. So again, I would disqualify that one for a pip snatcher. Pound yen. Okay, so the pound showed a bit of strength on Friday. And we're breaking through this level here, which we've been fighting for a week or so. Breaking through it. What's it going to do now? Pull back, retest, and carry on higher. Let's see how we're looking on the weekly. Just trending upwards. Monthly, just trending upwards. Weekly oversold. Almost, not quite. Definitely got to make the divergence on the weekly. Find it might be going, this might be exhausting this uptrend. With the daily. The daily MACD is very strong. That's looking really strong. Nothing there to say we're going to reverse anytime soon. And we have the RSI is not quite overbought yet, so there's room to the upside. So overall, looks like we are going along. Let's look at the hourly chart. What do we have here? Again, we're jumping on trend. Maybe there's a trend line here. We've only got 2 touches, but that's all we have at the moment. Maybe we have break and retest. Yeah, not really. Nothing obvious there. So pip snatcher looks okay. 1 hour 50 is looking okay. Putting it back to this to the pivot, and that could happen in a few hours' time. Trend line for some kind of protection against a stop. Stop below the S1, and take profit here below the R1 at 1%. Quick in and out. That was good. How's that MACD looking? Well, MACD looks good. So that looks like a good looking pip snatcher. Like that one. Okay, good. QUSD. Again, a run up to day 50, hitting it here and some kind of rejection. So we didn't have much deceleration on Friday. Doji after a bullish candle is kind of indecision, but no, so that's Thursday. And then Friday, another doji candle, so that's looking like it's fully decelerated and ready to go short. Monthly down to its lows, weekly bouncing off the lows, and a kind of slightly bullish doji candle last week. So that's looking like it could be going short. What do we have on our hourly chart? We have a trend line here, which is not the best, but it's okay. Maybe there's one which is there. There's a trend line there somewhere. Either way, it's clearly broken. The hourly 50, the hourly 50 is broken, retested, but so we've done it twice and it's coming down for a third attempt. Now we have a double bottom and a higher low, which is not ideal. So I would not want to take this as an IBO, just because it's a bit messy. But should we get a nice break down here somewhere, maybe down to here, maybe we get a rejection, clear IBO, retest, and then we can take that short to the 4 hour 50 or beyond. So that looks like one could be sitting up for later on. We'll see how that one goes. That D looks good. That D looks fine. Everything looking good about that one, apart from this price action. Well, a nice clear breakdown and a pullback. Dollar CAD, what does that give us? So we've had a pullback from this level, major level, almost hit the daily 50, and it looks like we're going long again. Monthly, not much. Weekly, uptrend, it's major level, pullback, doji-ish. Maybe we're continuing higher. Last 2 days have been doji and bullish candles, so could be looking higher. Anything on the MACD? Got a MACD here from this high to this high is lower. This could be this pullback to the 50 halfway line of the RSI. So maybe we're ready to go higher, and maybe we're going to continue lower. Let's see what the lower time frames give us. The 1 hour chart gives us, well, we do have a nice trend line, clearly broken, hourly 50 broken, bounce. Is that a, maybe that's an entry there, but a bit too quick, I think. So maybe we're going to get a pullback later today. And that'll give us a trade long. And trading through the 4 hour 50. I'm just pausing because maybe it's going to hit the 4 hour 50 and carry on back down again to see how the price action goes. But we have, it's looking pretty bullish on the MACD. Divergence here, massive divergence there from that low to that low, and then pretty strong on the uptrend. So it looks like we're going further up. Yeah, so I'll stick with that, going high to previous highs up here somewhere. Maybe bodies of these candles here. Might be a safe target. So that's pretty good. We need to do, of course, do a fib in here, maybe from these lows to highs, which stays, if they stay as the highs, and pull back to here, and then take our long trade from there. So that could be a nice one for later on. We're trading through the 4 hour 50. Otherwise, we'll get 1 to 1, but not much more. So 4 hour 50, move to break even. So your capital, your money is protected. And then hope it breaks through and continues up higher. That looks good for later on. That'll be in 6 to 8 hours. Get this entry. Anything before that probably isn't valid. We'll probably come back and give another entry or just reverse when the UK volume comes in. Dollar Swiss, what do we have here? A similar kind of price action. Major level, rejection, pull back to the daily 50 and some bullish candles the last couple of days. That D looks okay. weekly hasn't pulled back much, but for the short term, it looks like we could be going to highs. That's the hourly chart. Yeah, very similar to the last one. We've got downtrend clearly broken. The 1 hour 50 broken a little bit here, but nothing much. Now we've got a good breakout. We've got a fib from these lows to these highs. Pulls back to, it's not really a CBO because this isn't a clear broken retest of the 4 hour 50. I'd suggest it's going to hang out for a few hours and then pull back to 1 hour 50 to give an IBOC. And the stop goes behind the 7.75. Or it'll break a bit higher first and then come back down for a nice clean CBO. Where you can be a little bit higher and you put your stop behind the 618. So that's maybe an IBOC later today or a CBO later today, maybe tomorrow. That's all I have there lining up right now. Let's look at a few others which may line up later. Aussie CAD, similar kind of Aussie chart here. We've got a break up to the daily 50 and a rejection. Clear rejection on the daily. Go to the hourly chart. So we've got a downtrend. We haven't really pulled back to the hourly 50 yet. Oh, maybe a little one here. Maybe that was the IBO. If you're good on that one, you'll be doing well because after you've taken profit on the 4 hour 50. And looks like I'll be pulling back again for a discretionary second IBO, or you wait for the CBO here. So maybe it'll pull back now for an IBOC, second bite of the cherry, trade short, or wait for a nice clean CBO. Break of the 4 hour 50, and then the pullback to the 4 hour 50, and the 1 hour 50 will have time to catch up. So that could be one for later on. You okay? Looking a bit messy. The weekly looking okay. It's pulled back to the weekly 50 and its major level. Is there going to be some kind of resistance? Well, it has been, so maybe it will be again. But we've got a nice rejection off it. Very bearish on Thursday. A little bit of a bounce on Friday. Let's see what the 1 hour gives us. Okay, so we've had this break of the 1 hour trend line. We've had a double top. We've broken clearly down below the 1 hour 50 and the trend line, and we've come back to test the 1 hour 50. So that is our IBO entry, which has come back and retested again. And then I think the next best thing to wait for is a clear break and retest of the 4 hour 50, which is this blue line here. Nice trade lower, pull back, and then enter here. And then looking for a CBO short down towards the daily 50. Could be a nice one for later on. Okay. Again, going long, still at this level on Friday. Not quite reached the weekly 50. But let's see what the daily gives us. It looks like we're going to be going to a strong level. See anything on there? And these low, low, low. Yeah, not convincing there. Could be a level. And then on the hourly chart, we have a strong uptrend. We have break of the trend line, and then we come back to retest it. And that's 1 hour 50 kind of acting as support, bouncing off that. And going to cut to retest the trend line. We need to see some definite confirmation of our trend change. So need to see lower highs and lower lows. So this as an IBO would be a bit risky, depends how it gets there. We really want to see an IBO with lower highs and lower lows. So maybe we'll get a, let's hypothesize Maybe we'll get a bounce off of the hourly 50 to make a low, lower high, then give us a nice entry, and we can trade that short. So that will give us a lower high and a lower low here. This low lower than this one as well as lower than this one. So that could be one for later on. Keep an eye on that price action. We'll see. Pound dollar. Well, it's stalling at this level, isn't it? It's stalling at this level, which goes back quite a way. It's hit it a few days ago, and it's kind of stalled there and trying to break through. What does the 1 hour chart give us? I've copied the trend line across onto 1 hour, tweaked it a little bit, and it seems very clear that that is what's acting as resistance. MACD, hard to say because this is a lower high, maybe slightly lower, but much, much lower here. So that's implying that it is going to be rejected again. And we've now got lower highs and lower lows. This has come back again. We had a higher high from this one. A bit undecided, but if we get a nice clean break of the 1 hour 50 to make it a lower low, lower than this one, pull back to 1 hour 50, that can give us a nice short trade. So that's possible for later on. We'll keep an eye on that one. Dollar yen. This one's been interesting for a while, finally breaking down. We are on the daily, we are a massive MACD divergence, implying lower prices. RSI further bought, implying lower prices, although it's come back to the halfway line. So is this going to bounce off and go long, or is it going to continue to go short? Look at the weekly. It's the RSI. There's no MACD divergence there on the weekly. RSI is obviously very, very overbought, like it has been for a long time. But there's no sign of reversal on the MACD, although, yeah, not clear. That's slightly higher on the MACD and much higher on the price action. So a bit undecided. On the daily, we are getting, well, let's see, we go to the lower time frame, but that is a very clear MACD divergence there, very strong one. So we could be looking for a further pullback. Let's go to hourly chart. What does that give us? So on this pullback, look on 1 hour 50, 4 hour 50. It's pulled back to the 4 hour 50. That's nice. So we're now going to have hopefully some clear price action. It'll show its hand. If we are going to continue short, then we'll break down from this 4 hour 50, break through the 1 hour 50 and create a nice little ACBB. Break and retest of the 1 hour 50, stop behind 0.75, and we can take this down to these lows here, or we can take it down to the daily 50. The alternative, of course, is that this downtrend is over. So we may get a pullback to the 1 hour 50 and then break above it. And then we'll get a nice CBO trading up to the highs. So either way, it should show its hand. Either the breakdown below the 1 hour 50, cleanly pull back and reject it with an entry here, or it will maybe pull back and we'll just break away straight higher, then pull back to give us a CBO long. So either way, keep an eye on that one because that could be a good trade either way. And that's it. That's what I have. Right, good. So again, be careful this week because of the news, but there's a few things possibly lining up, and I wish you all the best in your trading. Log your trades, review your trades, and the more time you spend on the charts, the better you'll get at reading them. Okay, I wish you all the best. I will speak to you tomorrow. Take care.